highlight the importance of representation. I did not know any Black person in interior design. I say that as a part of thinking about design and design school, that if you are a person of color, that there are other things to take into consideration and other challenges that will be very specific. Hello everyone, welcome in. Rose here, checking in. I hope you're all well, doing well. I wanted to chat to you all in this video about some things that have been on my mind pertaining to design and school. I have my undergrad in interior architecture, and I'm currently going back to school for my master's in design and researching the racialization of objects and how it's affected the design industry. You know what I mean? So today I'd like to talk to you about design and choosing a design school and potentially seeing different ways that you could go about it. Okay, so I have my little iPad with a ton of notes, and I have my tea in my Lolly Lolly ceramics mug. I figured that I'd offer some 2 cents just in terms of if you're thinking about going back and kind of sharing my thought process behind my making decisions, and maybe even a little bit about my experience so far, like working in the industry and how it's compared to school, really just talking all things design. Let me try some tea. It's way too hot. It's way too hot. We don't need to. Why did I choose design/art school? Like I mentioned, my background's in interior architecture. I minored in business also, but I chose it for a plethora of reasons. I like to think in a lot of ways that design chose me. You know what I mean? As cliche as it sounds, I do think there's some truth to that. Let's take it back. So in high school, I went to a high school that was a very competitive science, math-based high school. We had AP and IB courses, and a lot of people that I went to school with like majored in engineering and, you know, went to these major universities and like work in engineering fields now. So for a long time, I thought that was going to be my trajectory, even though, you know, throughout middle school and elementary school, like I was never attracted to math or science or anything like that. I just enjoyed, you know, finger painting, like being creative, and I also just like really enjoyed people and like wanted to do something where I was kind of able to potentially mesh those two things. So for a while I thought I wanted to be like a pediatrician or like a doctor, just because I was like, oh, like it seems like that's like really a way to engage with people. And you know, growing up, it's like no one's talking to you about like these very niche kind of design fields, and I feel like it's really only these I don't know. I mean, interior design's been around for decades, and for centuries. Like it's been around for a while, but it was not a part of my repertoire. Like people that I know are not interior designers. No one in my family does design, so it was not a part of my vocabulary. So I feel like it took a while for me to even realize that like design and art could be a thing outside of just how people talk about like struggling artists or, you know, all these different depictions of it in film or in books or all these different things. It took a while to like wrap my head around it being an actual possibility. And I think high school was just that for me. I was able to take IB art, which was my junior and senior year, which IB and AP, for those who aren't familiar with those terminologies, AP is advanced placement and IB is international baccalaureate. So for both of them, there's tests that you take to get college credit at the end of the course. So I took IB art, which stood over 2 years, and was able to take courses to get college credit for undergrad. I can't remember even what I got on the tests, but I think I got some college credit. But I don't know. My art professor she was something. I chose that because of I would say my IB art class. That was a class that, maybe it's because it also continued from junior and senior year, that it was just consistently something that was like on my mind and something that like I was continuously paying attention to compared to my other classes. Like I always loved English, I always loved writing, I always loved like art history, but I didn't really like engage with that as much. Like it wasn't so much on the forefront as this IB art class. Going back to how I said I think that design chose me. So in high school, I spent a lot of time at my main library, which was downtown, in the city. And after school, I was a participant in like a lot of after school programs that took place there. So I would catch the bus from my high school to downtown, and my friends and I would go there and we would just geek out and we would read and we would get on the computers and use the free internet and just, do stuff, do teenage stuff. Found myself there quite often, and I was always really drawn to the arts and poetry section, which was on the second floor at the time, and it was like kind of hidden back in like a little nook. And there would always be like displays out of like all these different books, and I just remember being so attracted to the book covers and just like feeling all these really strong emotions that I really think just like drew me into even being interested. And I'll say for IB Art too, like we were consistently learning about new artists and it was very self-driven at the time, which is something that I think I really struggled with. Like it's not even that my professor didn't do a great job. She was just very kooky, like typical art professory. So maybe a little bit more fine arts than design. But yeah, so with that, like a lot of my self-direction stemmed from the library and from trying to like seek out these sources or people that like I was interested in. But one day I came across this book called Brooklyn Modern. I think it's like Architecture, Interiors, and Design, which I actually have the book, but I'll insert a photo of it so you can see what it looks like. But with this book, it is outlining all these different brownstones in New York, and it's just all these people that are redoing these different brownstones and like giving themselves like home renovations. And that was my first introduction into interior design being a thing, and I think I found the book, it might have been my senior year, and just was forever changed. I was like, didn't know that people could do this, didn't know people, it was a job to be able to like design homes and design interiors and, to put all this thought and consideration into a space. Like, again, had no influence into this being a thing. And, my mom was not a decorator, so she's not like, or thinking about decor. Her background is also in engineering. So it's like just a lot of technicality based around like our home space. Like it was not necessarily about like how does it look and how does it function and all these different aspects. So that book really changed my life and changed my perspective onto what I could be doing in the nearby future. So I own it and I put it on my bookshelf, and everywhere that I go, I take it with me because it just consistently reminds me of, where I started and how I was thinking about it, and just like how much inspiration plays a role in making your decisions. From there, I'll get into kind of like how did I choose the school that I wanted to go to. So after I discovered this book, that was like the new thing that was on my mind. And even back then, it's like, obviously the internet was like around, but I don't even remember going onto Google that much to like learn about interior designers. Like I remember searching it and being like, what is interior design? And it gives you like that general blurb. And then from there, just like starting to look into schools that were offering interior design as like something to go to school for. I started researching, I started, diving into different stuff that was on the internet, and I ended up applying to 5 schools. 3 were here in Ohio. 1 was a liberal arts school. 1 was, I'm saying here in Ohio, I don't live in Ohio right now. 3 were in Ohio. 1 was in New York, and 1 was in Chicago. So through the application process, also like thinking back on it, like I did little to no research about any of these universities. Like I really just was like, oh, I see you have interior design, like that's enough for me, yada yada. I think now that I've applied to grad school and like went through a whole deep dive of like looking into these universities, like what are the things that they support, what are their initiatives, like what are these other things, like none of that was on my trajectory or my mind. I was like, where can I afford? What school seems cool? What is the program offering? Like what are the potential job outcomes? Like very simplified things to some extent. Even the job thing, it's like a little iffy. I don't even know if I was looking at that. It was definitely just trying to get out of Ohio if possible, and then I was also trying to just get into a program that I thought would best suit me and the things that I was interested in. So I didn't get into one of the schools that I applied to in Ohio, which was UC. I applied to DAP, and I remember I've messed up that application so bad. Like I thought that it was like one of those like save and continue things, and I clicked submit after typing like one sentence into the the blurb where you're supposed to put like an about me, like, you know, the paper that you usually write for like applying. I put one sentence and I thought it was just like saving and that I would be able to come back to it, but it like submitted my full application. So I was like, we'll take that as a sign. I didn't get in, surprisingly, after I wrote, hello, my name is Rose White. Didn't get in, which is understandable. I get it. So no hard feelings, you see, whatever you say. I applied to a liberal arts school for like art history, and I applied to CCAD for interior design. And then I applied to a school in New York because I wanted to go to New York so bad. And at that point too, like I knew so little, like I didn't even know what art schools were out there. Like I had never heard of SCAD, I had never heard of Parsons, I had never heard of Pratt, I had never heard of SVA, like, or any of these like top tier art schools, Cal Arts. Like I don't know, like if my professors like just didn't like tell me about it after I vocalized that I wanted to be in art school, or if just like I never looked it up. But it wasn't until I was in like maybe my first year of art school that I was like, oh my God, there's like all these other ones. So I don't know what the fuck was going on, okay? Honestly. Applying mainly or getting into SAIC and CCAD and choosing between those two. CCAD is in Columbus, Ohio. It stands for Columbus College of Art and Design. SAIC is like School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And from there, I chose my school. Oh, wait. Yeah. At the time, SAIC was looking like it was going to be upwards of $75K a year. And CCAD was somewhere between like 30 and 40. And they were offering me like a good amount of like scholarships and like stuff that was very doable. And I was going to be paying for this out of pocket. And God bless my mom and my family that helped contribute to some of my education as well. But I worked 3 jobs to go to school, and then as well as like having to like take money from my mom and potentially other family members. So it was a struggle, and it was like a constant thing on my mind when it came to applying to school. I was like, I'm not trying to go to school and get in heaps of debt. I was the only person in my family to go to design school. My sister actually introduced me to CCAD because she used to go to their fashion show that they had each year, and it was free, which is crazy that she used to go all the time, and I literally have never gone with her. And she wanted to go to school for fashion design. Ended up going later on for English and like creative writing. How I chose it was mainly based on finances, based on money, and I did end up choosing CCAD for that reason, and because they also had a lot of like their website was very easy to manage. And I was familiar with the campus, and it was close to home, and it checked a lot of the boxes that at the time I didn't think I wanted, but it ended up working out in my favor, which was, yeah, just the closeness and being able to afford it and being interested in the program were maybe the top 3 things that I was looking for. I was able to go there also in person. For CCAD compared to SAIC, I was not able to like tour or get any information. To get any information because I was not in a financial place to go to Chicago and be able to go tour and see all the different things in person. Ended up going with CCAD. Shout out Columbus College of Art and Design. Their program is called Interior Architecture and Design that I went to. And that's kind of how I ended up choosing them as a school. Some things that I also wanted to talk about was, and I was actually just watching, I think it's Paige Wassel. I don't actually know how to pronounce her last name. Paige, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. It'd be crazy if you were watching this. I was just watching her videos, and she was talking about how and there's a few people that I watch who don't have like specific interior like backgrounds, as in like went to school for interior architecture and design. Like it got me thinking a lot about like choosing your niche, and how sometimes I feel like your niche chooses you, and then sometimes like you realize that you're drawn to other things. But I think when it comes to applying to school, definitely choosing something based off of like what you're attracted to, like pay attention to what you like, what you don't like. Really take it an opportunity to like get to know yourself. I feel like I'm telling myself things that I wanted to hear when I was like younger. Or like if I was thinking about going back to school now, things that I'd be paying attention to, whether that's undergrad or graduate school. Attention to what you're attracted to. and maybe keep track of it. Excuse me. Also, my God, keep track of it and like let that direct your research into potential programs and people to like, I don't know, get connected to. For me, I wish that I would have like reached out to people in interior architecture and design and like, you know, shadowed them, done a day in the life type of thing, or just really saw what it was like, because there was a big, which I can make a whole other video about that, but there is a big switch between going to school for interiors and then working in interiors, at least for me, which I worked in the field for 5 years, 4 or 5 years before going back to school to get my master's. So although I'm not, obviously it's like I didn't do 10 plus years of all these things, like I think I have enough experience to know of the differences between school versus the work aspect of it. And I think that that matters a lot, especially since you're going to school to be working. Like you're going to school, and then that's the work is like what you're mostly trying to learn about, and that's not necessarily what the education looks like, if that makes sense. I think allowing yourself to play with that, like allowing yourself to acknowledge the things that you're attracted to and the things that you're into, but then not letting that dictate too much. Like in school, I was able to take a lot of writing courses, art history courses, took a lot of design courses, obviously, but I feel like I didn't like play as much as I could have, or just like as much as I could have allotted myself the opportunity to do. I definitely ended up just like taking a lot of classes that were kind of expected. Like I would have loved to take like a sculpture course, or like, you know, I'm like, I go to an art school, like let's get artsy, let's get weird. Do you know what I mean? Like let me make a piece solely out of like dirt. Like, let me make shoes out of like soil. I don't know. But like, I just feel like there was all this, and this is for my own personal self-reflection. Like there was just all of this wanting to do my best and like wanting, and it was also so new. Like, I feel like now being in it and being pretty familiar with the industry, like I'm allowing myself more opportunities to play, which it's like, it comes when it's supposed to. Like, I think back then I really didn't have as much time to play. I was, again, working 3 jobs. And then my junior and senior year, I was an RA, and like there were no time to play games. Like I had to be on top of my courses, I had to be on top of my duties, and then on top of just like my responsibilities. So the time to play was not there. But now in my master's, randomly, there's like more time to play. But I would say for either or, if you have the time and the energy and the, you know, privilege to be able to play around with topics that you're interested in, things that you're curious about, take advantage. Don't hold back, because it is, I think that those are the things that really will tell you something about yourself and teach you about your interests and really keep you engaged in the different ways that you can like be working and be designing within this industry. Yeah, those are just a few things that grad school or school reflections and types of things. I would say the last thing that I highly suggest, and like when I was reflecting on it, something that I wish I would have taken more advantage of, is just like asking around, traveling if you're able to, asking more people about their experience within school, their experience out of school, traveling to these different schools and locations to see more about the cities. And, you know, that was something that I was able to do for grad school. And I think that's been truly beneficial to be able to kind of just, you know, to get an idea of what it will be like to live there before actually having to live there. And it was very nice, and it helped me a lot within this transition. But yeah, taking advantage of the networks, of the resources, of the internet, which is, you know, at an all-time high. I do also want to address that design is such a fluid industry that by no means do I think like a formal education is necessary. Do not think you have to go to school for design to be a designer and to learn design skills. Take advantage of the Skillshares, of the TikToks, of the YouTubes. There's so many smart, educated people on all these platforms that are continuously offering accessible education. And I think it is just a matter of there's no reason why you can't do something, like especially with all of these potential opportunities that exist out there. Depending on what your niche is within the design industry, I think that varies and that changes, because I think with like interior specifically, there is more of a formal education required if you're going to call yourself an interior architect or an interior designer, in terms of taking the NCIDQ And for that testing, you have to meet, there's certain requirements, and a part of that is education based. And similar things for architecture. I don't think there's something similar for graphic design, but I'm also not 100% sure of that. Graphic designers, let me know. I think that caps all of my basic things for now. I was chatting a lot, which I was like, we're going to keep it short and sweet and to the point. Didn't happen. My gosh. But I want to do a whole series just about design and, thinking about design school, and kind of just like a series based around sharing more about what I've learned being in the design industry, even more about specific designers, maybe even like design trends, because I love stuff like that. As a Black woman in the design field, my path has been very specific. It's been very particular. And I think that if you are a Black person or a person of color that's interested in the design field, definitely reach out if you'd like to talk. But I'm also hoping to make more videos about that, not only addressing it, but sharing some resources that have been helpful, as well as some designers, and kind of like the non-traditional teachings that I've definitely had to go out of my way to learn about, but that people are very forward thinking about. I've had a lot of professors that, a lot of very honest conversations and reflections on, being Black in this industry and where Blackness fits into this. And I think that that's a huge part of the conversation that the design world is very new to, and that, people are still working their way into. I've been reaching out to a lot of people, a lot of Black designers, a lot of people that talk about Blackness in design, and trying to kind of like build not only an education like through that, but also to just really highlight the importance of representation. And for me, that was something that I was going to say earlier. I did not know any Black person in interior design for, I think, like 3 years of me going to school for it. Had not met a Black designer, had not met a Black architect, didn't know what it looked like, what was going on. So I think for me, there's a lot of that still happening within this industry, and a lot that I want to continue to highlight, and a lot that I've been very thankful to get to learn about, of the many people that are out there, the many designers that have come before me that look like me, which has been truly, truly rewarding. I say that as a part of thinking about design and design school, that if you are a person of color, that there are other things to take into consideration and other challenges that will be very specific. And I would love to talk to you about any of this. Even if you're not a person of color, even you'd like to talk about design school making decisions, I'm here to chat about all of it. But yeah, you know where to find me, hopefully. All the links will be in the bio. The newsletter is ongoing, and I'm hoping to talk about some more design topics on there as well as to make some more videos about it. But YouTube and I, we're working on getting along, slowly but surely. So here's to that. But I hope you're having a good day or night whenever you're watching this, and sending you lots of love wherever you are. Feel free to reach out if you want to connect, if you want to chat. You can find me on Instagram at Rose White, Rose with 2 E's, White with 2 E's. And you can find me on my blog / newsletter at littlemadrama.substack.com. And yeah, hit me up or leave me a comment below. But feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you really soon. Bye.